Good evening, everyone. This is Michael Malley here with the Hurricane Outlook and discussion for November 28th, 2020, recorded on 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We have 2 more days left in the hurricane season as of today, and it is not going down without a fight, that is for sure. There is still two systems that we are watching: Invest Area 99L and newly christened Invest Area 90L right here, which is located in the far North Atlantic. And both of these systems really have a very slim chance of becoming a tropical cyclone over the next several days or so. You can see here Invest Area 99L, which is the first area right in through here. We have an approaching trough that is located in this region, an approaching front, and we're getting the storm to be severely sheared off towards the north and east, and that has not allowed for development of any convection near the center of circulation, and thus this remains relatively broad and disorganized. So the chances of this actually becoming named or anything of consequence really remains on the low side. If we progress back out over the far North Atlantic basin, we can actually see Invest Area 90L out here. Excuse me. Invest Area 90L out here, which again is gaining some subtropical characteristics, and this might be making a run at a subtropical depression or storm. Now, if we look back here at the infrared satellite, this is for 99L, you can see that the circulation is very faint, but it is located right here on the western side, really, of this convection, and the convective core basically remains relatively all up here, and it's getting sheared fairly substantially. You can see that there's fairly substantial cloud motions that show the impinging shear on the storm. So shear is going to remain a very big part in this system over the next several days, so not really expecting much out of that. And Invest Area 90L right here, if we actually can reload this, you can see that it's a little bit blurry because this is getting on the edge of the GOES 16 satellite, but we can definitely see that there is a circulation in here, and we do have shallow convection, but it is still convection that is kind of in a comma head structure like this, and that convection is trying to rotate around. We can very clearly see that. So this is a sign that there is a circulation here, although this is probably more so right now a mid-latitude circulation. If we can get enough convection to develop over the next several days, this might actually, as it heads southward into warmer water, might have a shot at becoming a subtropical depression or storm as this generally moves off towards the south there. Now we can see these two areas highlighted by the National Hurricane Center. Again, this area really only with about a 20% over the next 5 days. In this area, with a 20 or 30% chance over the next 5 days. Again, I'm not really giving these really any higher odds than that. The Hurricane Center certainly isn't either. And the reason for that is simply because both of these systems are in relatively unfavorable conditions, unfavorable environments. So we're likely not going to be seeing these systems develop into much. However, there could still be some impacts from 90L to portions of the Canary Islands here. This, of course, is the Azore Islands over here. So there definitely could be some impacts to the Canary Islands and parts of coastal Africa from this as well. Now, looking beyond in time here, we're going to start focusing away from the tropics and focusing more on the lower 48 weather. And we have an interesting and very complex setup happening today, or really tonight, in through really actually starting tomorrow, but starting kind of tonight into tomorrow, and then also then into Monday, where we're going to have a conditional risk for severe weather across the south and the mid Atlantic, and a pretty significant snowstorm setting up across portions of our northern states. So we're going to focus on the severe weather aspect first, then we'll get to the winter weather aspect of things here in just a moment. So, really starting off here, this is the GFS forecast. This is the 18Z run valid as of 0Z tonight. So, coming up here at, or really already past 7 o'clock now. We're at 48 minutes past 7. So, we can see that if we start moving this out here, what you'll notice is that we get a line of storms to develop here across parts of South Alabama and really out across the southern states, basically. Now, there's a couple of very important things happening in the atmosphere. If we march our way back here and we take on the dew points, now this is something that is very uh, substantial. This goes with any forecasting event for severe weather. You obviously need moisture. Moisture is also a source of instability, also a source of lapse rate. So, what do we got here? Well, first and foremost, we have obviously a front that is located right here. Undoubtedly, there is a front that is located in this region. You can see moisture values drop off fairly substantially from, let's just say, Birmingham and Tuscaloosa in Alabama and northward, really along this line. It's fairly separated. And what this really entails is that there's definitely a mix of cooler, drier air versus warmer, moister air to the south. So there's obviously some sort of frontal boundary in this area, and you can actually see the wind. You can actually kind of see the wind direction here. This is by 1 a.m. tomorrow morning. You can definitely see that wind direction does change a little bit in orientation. We go mainly from kind of a northeasterly component here to more of a western or kind of a easternly component here, and generally southerly flow over Florida at the moment by 1 a.m. tomorrow morning. Now, what's going to happen here is we're going to have a surface low that begins to develop out here, mainly in response because, again, we thought earlier in the week this could be a sample of Lee cyclogenesis. Now, that process has kind of been delayed, and we're not getting as strong of moisture advection as we once thought. There was some interests, a couple of days ago that we might have a relatively substantial warm air advection and a deep layer moisture environment across the south, which could set up for some pretty substantial tornado threats. Now, that risk is not really there, although there could still be a conditional risk. And you can see that the way that the moisture is pulled up here, you can see that we have a low that develops out here and passes to the north and east. Now, at the very same time, you can also see moisture advection that occurs, but what you'll notice is that the moisture advection is not really deep across portions of the Florida Panhandle and into Alabama. This moisture advection does not really advance that far northward. Now, the peninsula of Florida, it's the Florida Peninsula, and you're evecting air into the peninsula. So, of course, the Florida Peninsula has dew points in the mid to upper 60s. Now, with this being said, we can also see here that the moisture advection doesn't really make it that far into Carolina as as we once thought either. Now you can see here by Monday, this is 12Z, again, we have the surface low over northern North Carolina, and you see all this moisture advection that's being drawn up here. Now at this point, we have a stronger area of low pressure. Now, on the back side of this, you got all basically northwest flow, and around the other side here, you've got generally all southerly flow advecting this moisture straight northward. And you can definitely see where the front is somewhere roughly in this area. So we definitely have that front that is located in this region. And it's a very sharp front. You'll notice that. Now, again, if we take a step back here to 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, let's just go, or yeah, 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. Here's a sounding in the northern part of the Florida Panhandle. What you'll notice is that the hodograph, not only does the hodograph not give us any storm relative helicity, the moisture and temperature absolutely terrible. There's no instability to be found in this environment. Now, if we move this forward here, this is by 7 p.m. tomorrow night, and for the same general area, that is a little bit of a contaminated sounding. So we're going to jump a little bit further out. There we go. You can see that we have a much different story. First of all, the photographs are definitely enlarged and creating a relative bit of storm relative helicity. Now, this is big because this, again, could create some low top supercells. Now, we do have, again, the storm slinky showing kind of that build up there and that kind of almost like that kidney bean shape. And then we also have at least some relative instability, although this would be very low topped and not necessarily supportive of really robust supercells. Now, we continue to move this forward, and this is by 1 a.m. on Monday. And again, in the Florida Panhandle, you'll notice again storm relative helicity values definitely up there, definitely enlarging a hodograph, and there's definitely more mid-level instability at this point, and even some hints there of a little bit of a subsidence region through there. So this gives me maybe some confidence to say, okay, there definitely could be some severe weather risk going into tomorrow and Monday. So let's check out towards Monday afternoon. This is 12Z Monday afternoon. This time here taking a sounding in the Florida Peninsula. You can generally see that we have a storm relative hodograph that definitely is curved but not substantial. But this could favor some relatively low top supercells in parts of the Florida Peninsula region, even. And then if you take that out towards South Carolina, you can definitely see that we have decent SRH values, but the storm is almost vertically aligned here, which means that the updrafts and downdrafts aren't necessarily going to be separated. So this could cause storms to die out rather quickly. And again, instability is a big limiting factor. Now, what does the HRRR show? For what it's worth, this is the 18Z run of the HRRR. You can definitely see where we hold off on convection through most of the day tomorrow. We hold off most of the day tomorrow with convection. This is by 7 a.m. tomorrow. This is by 1 p.m. We finally get some showers and storms erupting over parts of the Florida Panhandle at this point. Now, a representative sounding away from the thunderstorms in this type of environment shows relatively no moisture or relatively no instability and no storm relative helicity. So we know we're not going to probably get severe weather there. But if we kind of move this back, and you can just kind of see that this is, 6Z, 1 a.m. Monday. This is in the Florida Panhandle or the Florida Peninsula region. Definitely storm relative helicity. But there's just like no instability. And that's going to be the biggest problem. And again, if we just kind of take a look at the moisture return if we just look here at the moisture return, you'll start to notice here that the moisture doesn't really increase substantially until later in the day Monday. We start to get a little bit of that chain kind of reaction, but some of this moisture is just not getting there. And, if we actually look further out here, we can see that, it's just absolutely crazy, the photograph structure and whatnot. So, the severe weather threat in scope is going to be relatively limited. And if we actually look here at the storm relative helicity, now this is a different picture. You can see that the SRH values are going to be very high in the 0 to 1 kilometer range. We are going to have fairly substantial shear all the way down into the Florida Panhandle or the Florida Peninsula. However, what you'll notice here, if we actually kind of put on our mixed layer instability, this is the mixed layer cape, and we'll notice that there's just no instability. I mean, your instability is really going to be confined to maybe a small sliver out here in the developing warm sector, well away from the dynamics at this point, and maybe right along the front. If we actually look and take somewhat of a sounding in that environment, this is not a contaminated sounding, you will actually see a decent tornado threat with definitely higher instability values, and there is definitely some case to be made here with surface-based supercells in this environment. So maybe right along this front here, we could see the development of a isolated tornado threat along this front. Now, the values here in terms of the LCL height, this is the lifted condensation level. You'll notice that those values are going to be relatively low. So they are not going to be high at all, which means the lower LCLs, this could produce a higher tornado threat. Low top supercells, that could certainly do. Bulk shear in the lowest 0 to 1 kilometer range, we can see out here, definitely will be more than sufficient with a developing low that's off towards the north and a trailing front, putting this region within 30 to 40 knots of that bulk shear in the lowest levels. And up here at the highest levels, there is definitely going to be some stronger cases to be made with 50 to 60 knots across this region. So what this is that there is going to be a conditional threat for severe weather. Now, I would be more so inclined to go with maybe even a slight risk across this region if we start to develop a greater instability value tomorrow. Now, that will be realized tomorrow with the soundings, and we'll take a look at that tomorrow in another video update tomorrow. But right now, marginal risk for severe weather by the Storm Prediction Center, and I think that is a very good case to be made. If we actually look real quick and we go to the Storm Prediction Center website for both days 2 and 3, we can see for tomorrow we have a marginal risk from near Lake Charles all the way through the Carolinas and all the way down to near Tampa, Florida. And for day 3, that marginal risk extends from near Fort Myers to Orlando, Florida, all the way up into New Jersey and most of coastal Carolina. So definitely a threat for severe weather there. Now, in the longer term, however, we are going to have a developing low up towards the north that is going to cause a pretty substantial snow event. If we actually look here on the Euro, we can see, if we go over to the precipitation type here, that we definitely have a developing snow event that will be a lasting event. So you can see this area of low pressure that starts to develop out here across Alabama, and that skirts towards the north. Now, at the very same time, we have cold air that is funneling in behind it. So in this general region, we should see a preceding rain event followed by a snow event. So you can see that rain that spreads northward, then the cool air comes down, and it starts to mix in, causing maybe some frozen precipitation and even some snow, which also gets really affected here. The lake effect snow could be quite substantial. And if you actually look here at the potential here of snow, the Euro is going with a blanket here of potentially over 7 to 8 inches across portions of Ohio, with lesser amounts down there in Ripley County, Switzerland, Dearborn. Some could see about 2 to 4 inches of snow. I'd definitely be inclined to say that there's going to be a greater corridor of snow around basically into central Ohio, because, even up there into Wilmington, definitely could see some higher, bands of snow there. And yes, there could be some snow. The Euro is actually forecasting snow as far south there as maybe even closer towards Atlanta with just a trace. Higher amounts there, of course, in the Appalachian Mountains there could see upwards of 5 to 7 inches. The highest amount there is about 11 inches, closer towards Lake Erie. So certainly something to monitor there. The GFS forecast, actually, what we'll do here is we'll look at the HRRR forecast. The HRRR will go to the 18Z run, and yeah, we'll go to the 18Z run. And again, we'll much similar. The herd actually does not generate any snow. And if we go back to the surface precipitation and the precipitation type, you'll notice that it just doesn't generate anything, mainly because it's not in that environment yet. But you can definitely see that we're going to have this cold air shot rapidly coming in, and then this low advecting northward. And on the back side of this is definitely going to be your potential for snow in this environment. All right. So with that being said, I hope you all have a great rest of your afternoon and evening. Of course, I am Michael O'Malley. I'll talk to you guys again some more tomorrow.